Hi everyone, Jared Johnson here with DayTraders FX, and welcome to the Trade the Chart series. This is going to be an update on the markets in general. We're going to talk about the Forex market, we're going to talk about the stock market, we're even going to look at the crypto market. We're going to see if there's some option plays to be had, we're going to see if there are some good Forex trades to be had, as well as kind of what the stock market and crypto market are up to in general. So there's definitely some good things going on here. So I call this the Trade the Chart series because what we have right now going on in all the markets is a whole bunch of opinions and ideas about what things should be doing and how things should be moving. And we just have to go back to the basics. What do we see on the charts? Trade what you see on the charts. I certainly care about everyone's opinions, but the market is a little less friendly. It just does what it does. And so what we have to do is try to trade those charts and just follow things along. Simple concept, and it works beautifully well. So have a look. Follow me on some of the various social medias. I post a lot of things on Twitter, my Facebook, DayTraders FX Facebook group. We post a lot of things. This video will be up there. And of course, follow us on YouTube so you can see this video along with many other videos on Forex trading, stock trading, just, my market updates, what I see happening. And of course, you can visit our website at daytradersfx.com. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. So again, the question is, as we go into this Trade the Chart series here, we're in the end of June. This is the end of the month. This is the end of the quarter. Things are getting kind of crazy. The question that we have is, what does summer hold for us traders? And that's where we're trying to kind of see what the opportunities are and where things are going. Okay, so let's go over here and just kind of have a little peek at, we'll look at some of the general markets, right? Let's look at the SPY. That's going to represent, what's going on in the S&P. We'll look at the dollar index. We're going to look at, again, some currency trades. We're going to look at a couple of stock positions and just kind of see where things are going. I think what we need to watch for and what is going to signal movement in the stock market, as well as what's going to signal movement in the currency market, is getting some of these things breaking out. Right now, I see a big correlation between the stock market and the Australian dollar. In fact, one of my favorite things to look at right now is SPY, SPX, right? Just anything S&P that we're looking at. One of my favorite things to look at is this in comparison to what we see happening on the Aussie yen. So the Aussie yen seems to be a really good, interesting one to keep an eye on because it is representing much of what the stock market in general is representing, right? I'm looking at kind of the same type of range on this Aussie yen. I'm saying, okay, here's the Aussie yen. We bottomed out with our coronavirus, crazy sell-off there in the end of March. And the things have, definitely been riding higher ever since. But it's really started to get consolidated the last little bit. And we can see that pretty apparent here as the Aussie yen kind of went into this range in the very first part of June, so about a month ago, and it hasn't really gone too much of anywhere. And we see a pretty similar picture on SPY, right? We kind of went into this range into May, right around there. It made this pretty nice, pretty big recovery, slowed down a little bit, broke higher, got into this range in the end of May, beginning of June, and it's been kind of stuck as well. So I'm looking for, some movement on both of these to signal that the currency market's ready to break loose and the stock market is going to either correct a little bit or continue moving. Now remember, what we want to do is trade what we can see on these charts here and make sure that we're looking at where things might be headed in relation to this, as well as where things might be headed in relation to the currency market. So as we look at kind of the stock market in general, the S&P index, we can see that sideways movement needs to break out. It needs to kind of clear the runway a little bit. If you look at the weekly chart on the SPY, you can see that we go back here to the end of May, a lot of big sideways candles, and this is looking very indecisive. I'm pretty interested in kind of the just below 300 on the SPY, 295 to 300 is kind of that support zone, and about 320 to about 323, 325-ish area on the top. We need to get some breakouts. We need to get some movements either way to start loosening up this market and start getting this thing going. If we get below about that 300 level, 295 on SPY, I'm looking for this thing to head down into the 260s, 270s. Maybe not all the way down to 260, but I think we've got 270 fairly easily that kind of puts us back into this consolidation here that we saw for quite a little while there. Puts us back into there, and that's a great area for stocks and so on, kind of dip down, maybe consolidate a little bit, and really recharge and be ready for the bigger move higher. So I think that looks pretty good, and I want to see some of those breakouts and some of those movements happen. That should be reflected fairly equally here on the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen. Same thing, as this guy has gotten really sideways and really consolidated here. I think we have a great opportunity for this to break out and run down to some of these targets. Those of you that have kind of been following me and watching, how I trade and what I do, I'm really interested in missed pivot points, and we have missed pivot points galore on the Aussie yen and really on all the Aussie pairs, as well as on the SPY, right? We've got some missed pivots down here and some good levels to aim for, some weekly pivots. Kind of been tapping those monthly pivots pretty well, but the weekly pivots look pretty ripe for a little retest, and we're seeing that same kind of situation on the Aussie yen. But the Aussie yen is also, needing to kind of break out of this channel. I think if this can break out, I think we have a very, very nice movement on Aussie yen for a push down here, hopefully into kind of the 70 level. Here we're trading at about 74, 35, 74.50 right in there. And then a continuation higher there. So that's kind of what I would be looking for to happen on this, if we get that same kind of breakout on the SPY. So nice little breakout, consolidate down in those levels, and then let's go. Let's get this thing back up and running. So I'm looking at those, again, 300 to kind of the 320. Aussie yen's kind of got this 72, 50, 60, and we've kind of got this 74, 50 over here that's actually getting tested right now. But we also have this big, double top potential and this big high all the way up here around 76.50, which this could be retesting as well for maybe a big double top before that bigger sell-off. So I'm just really, I'm gonna stick with the charts. I'm gonna trade what I see here, and if we get this thing starting to kind of get above this 74, 50, 60 area, then we could be headed up into that 76, and I'll be ready for that. And I'll be looking to kind of trade that movement higher, as well as trading the movement lower. And again, I think if we get into that double top zone, I will much more actively be looking for that kind of movement, right? And I think, again, the same kind of activity could happen on the SPY, right? We could, if we don't end up getting a breakout, then we could see this thing run into these big all-time highs over here and, kind of consolidate up there and ultimately work its way back down on something like this, right? So it's either we're going to get a breakout down first, and then we're going to be able to buy those dips, or this thing's going to run higher, and we're going to be able to fade those rallies and short this thing back down to some of these corrective levels. But what we have to take into account in this whole thing is, number one, let's just follow the charts. Let's trade what these charts are telling us. Number two, let's be patient. Let's wait for confirmation, and let's just find these targets, find these breakouts, and be ready to follow that through. So some really good things in the works. We've just got to be kind of patient and careful and cautious and wait for those things to happen. As we run through the currency market real quick, I've definitely had Aussie pairs on my mind. And Aussie pairs just are stuck. They're so stuck. If you go down to kind of these 4-hour charts, you can appreciate a little bit more of what's been going on here. Aussie pairs have been sideways again since the first part of June. So about the first week of June. So for a whole month, the Aussie CAD has done nothing. The Aussie Swiss has done nothing. The Aussie Yen, trying to make a push, still not doing much. So Aussie pairs have really just gotten stuck, and they're just really going sideways. So we want to make sure that as those start to break out, we're ready for that movement. In my view of the types of targets that I look for and the types of setups that I look for, Aussie pairs are overbought. But it doesn't change the fact, if I'm just trading the charts, it doesn't change the fact that that's a run up and a consolidation, and it may break higher before it's ready to come lower. And I'm ready for that. I'm ready for it to potentially break higher before it dips lower, but I'm also ready for this to dip lower. And some of the things that I look for is, I look for where this is in relation to the 200 moving average. This has gone for quite some time, about 2 solid months here, almost 3 months without hitting that 200 moving average. So I look at that and I think that's a big deal. This is getting overbought. We've got a lot of missed pivots down here. This is getting overbought. And so that's why I like the bearish outlook, because there's so many targets, and the more targets we get lined up, the more likely we are to see some sell-offs and to see some of those things starting to happen. So that's kind of what I look for there when I'm trying to find this kind of movement. So Aussie pairs seem to be doing that galore. They all have a lot of missed targets down below. They're pretty sideways, but they're telling us that something's coming. So I'm being patient on the Aussie pairs. I'm being patient on Euro pairs. We've seen some Euro movement, but as you can see on these charts, it's a lot of sideways activity, sideways, sideways, sideways. And as we go into summer, things can be sideways. They can stay sideways for longer than we think they should. And things can get a little bit, interesting, where we think, okay, come on, let's get some movement. Now, best thing to do is just to wait and be cautious and let these ranges break out, because we're seeing ranges galore. And we want to let those break out. We want to let those have the opportunity to move and make that push that we're ultimately looking for. I think pound pairs are very interesting. Pound pairs are weak, and how much longer they're going to stay weak, I don't know. But I'm starting to see some potential opportunity to get bullish pound pairs. We saw a nice little pullback on pound dollar. Pound dollar is actually one of the only ones that I want to stay on the bearish side, because as we see this big rising wedge, this is broken out, retested, and continues to head lower. Yes, we had a little bump up here, but I think the pound dollar could continue this kind of movement here towards these lows. So I'm looking at that as more of a dollar driver. If we see a bunch of dollar strength, then I'm going to get short the pound dollar. But if we do see pound strength really start to hit, then I want to be long pound Aussie. This one looks really good to me. I've got my targets circled. I've got all the things I'm looking for. This is a falling wedge. This is a big descending channel that's been in place for a long time. Pound Aussie's got a lot of potential to head higher, to head straight up like that. So I think Pound Aussie is really awesome and should give us some opportunities. I'm a little mixed on things like the Pound CAD, Pound Swiss, right? If we see that Swiss franc is really showing some weakness, the Pound Swiss could be a good opportunity with this big falling wedge. And I think there's going to be some possibilities of trades to be had there. But Pound Swiss, again, is breaking out of this channel. And if I'm trading what I see right here, I need to probably get Pound Swiss back up above 117.50 before I'm getting, anxious to trade it back into that channel high. Otherwise, if this kind of continues to just meander its way down, then I'm going to use these retracements and these little movements up to kind of retest those moving averages and continue on the bearish side. So I like pound dollar bearish. I like pound Aussie bullish, and I could trade pound CAD either way, just waiting for confirmation. New Zealand pairs are stuck. They're going the exact same direction as the Aussie pairs, which is nowhere. We've got to wait for those to break out before we do anything. So I want to be a little bit cautious with those. Quick little look, dollar index. Let's go to the dollar index for a moment here. Dollar index is kind of in this area. I think if we get above 97.70, dollar index gets really interesting. We probably got to run up into the 98, 90, 98.50, 9900 area. But if it starts to break out and starts to give us a little bit of a run here, then I think that the dollar index is going to be a good one to get us back into this bearish side of things and back down into that lower portion there. So dollar index looks interesting. We're just waiting for some confirmation. Above 97.70, this runs up. Somewhere down here, breaking out of this channel, we should see some bigger confirmation to the downside. And I ultimately am leaning towards more dollar bearishness. So quick little look at the currency market. Let's run over to a couple of stocks that I'm keeping an eye on. If you look at the Qs, you can see that this represents, tech stocks in general. Of course, the tech stocks have done awesome, but they've started to channel a little bit. You can see the Qs are channeling up here. There's still a big bear or bullish movement. But as I look over here and I say, okay, we're getting a lot of space between current price and moving averages. This is telling me that this is getting pretty overextended, and the higher this goes, the more I want to be bearish. So I'm just kind of keeping my eyes on that. We've had a pretty big run and a pretty solid bullish movement off those lows. We know that tech stocks have been doing super great, and so we're ready and kind of watching and looking for that to happen. But the other thing that I'm going to be looking for, we've talked about the SPY, we've talked about the Qs now. I like airline stocks and I like banking stocks. I've been talking about those for weeks and weeks. I think these are good opportunities. I like the idea of selling naked puts on Delta down around $22.50, $23, getting assigned the stock. If it goes down below, let it exercise, own that stock, sell options to get out, and let's just give this thing an opportunity to run higher. I like these airline stocks and that kind of movement, right? I think we've got quite a bit of this going. JetBlue, same thing. Sell an $8.50, $9 put, somewhere in there. Let that exercise you if it runs down. If it stays up, take it, run with the premium, you're good to go. If it runs down, let it exercise you. Own JetBlue at $8.50 or $9. Sell some options to work your way out and hold on to that position for a little bit on its way up. So JetBlue and Delta look really good to me. I like the little cheap stocks. I think Ford has some decent potential. Sell some naked puts here, right? Let's see if Ford's going to make its way down. Sell some naked puts. Let that exercise you. Own Ford at $4.50, $5, $5.50. Sell options to get out. Let's trade Ford higher. Trading Ford around $6 is a decent deal. GE, same kind of thing. Sell some naked puts down here. You could trade a credit spread on GE, on Ford, and all these ones I'm mentioning, but they're cheap stocks. I say we sell some naked puts, let it get exercised, sell options to get ourselves out while we wait for that bigger run up. So I'm liking those guys. I like the same kind of thing on Bank of America. Sell some naked puts, own Bank of America at $20, $21. Let it exercise. Sell options to get out. Trade Bank of America back up. So I'm liking these setups. I think we have some great opportunities here. And that's kind of where I'm looking to see where these things go. We have things like, of course, the cruise line stocks are still kind of hanging in there. I'm being cautious and careful. I don't want to do too much with these guys yet. I want to wait and see how they go, how they play out. So I'm sitting on the sidelines a little bit with Royal Caribbean and Carnival. These guys are still in this kind of shaky zone. Carnival's cheap enough that you could probably, if you could sell a put and make some decent money selling maybe a $12 put, let it exercise, sell some options to work your way out of that. I like that. So that's a couple of things I'm looking at. Bitcoin, oh my goodness. Bitcoin is all over the place, right? So I think Bitcoin is going to give us some opportunities here. But it's kind of, again, at that decision point. We've followed these lower highs all the way down, and Bitcoin is here and so on. That $10,000 mark, anything above $10,000, Bitcoin's probably going to run. If it can't get above $10,000 and it dips down, be prepared to buy Bitcoin as low as possible. The closer we can get, below $7,000, $6,000, somewhere in that range, just buy Bitcoin for that big move up. I really like that. But $10,000 has always kind of been that decision point on Bitcoin, and I think that's a good area to be watching this. Okay, guys, that's a quick look for me. Remember, have a little peek. Come over here, follow us on social media. I hope that's helpful. These are a couple of stocks, a couple of things I'm looking for. We might see a slow summer, and then again, we might see things really start to crank. So be ready. I'll have more updates and more details to come as we go. Thanks, everybody. Good luck. Best wishes. And if you have any questions, catch me on social media, and I'll be happy to chat with you. Take care, guys.